So this is the first video about an article by Doug Anderson called Peirce and Cartesian Rationalism. And I think it's best to begin by understanding the bigger picture that Anderson wants to draw out. And that is that Peirce and Descartes are imposed in many important ways, but they share some very basic objectives and goals as philosophers in common. And that's what Anderson starts out with. What do they share in common? Well, one thing they shared in common was that we're both interested in how we can find the truth, or how we can find truths. So they were both interested in seeking out methods of inquiry that would stabilize beliefs against the various things which shake our beliefs and move them around, like public opinion, our own self-doubt, changing circumstances, and so forth. So they both saw themselves as engaged in that project. They also felt a similar sort of revolt, or felt a similar kind of feeling of revolution against authorities about truth. Descartes was rebelling against the medieval authority of the church, which dictated basically what to think, how to think, when to think. And that's a bit of an overstatement, but certainly the truth of even scientific matters was referred back to church authority. Peirce was rejecting some of the philosophical authorities that he had been raised with, in particular rationalism, and also British empiricism, which he thought was too constrictive and also too atomistic. So they're both revolting against authorities in that way. Anderson said, Peirce saw the Cartesian tradition as a treasure, even as he marked out his own disagreements with it. So both also sought an answer to the question, how and where should we seek the truth? For Descartes, the answer was in the human mind, by overcoming our doubts. And for Descartes, one of the main ways of doing this was through what's sometimes referred to as the a priori method, the method of intuition. Intuition for Descartes could help you avoid confusion that arises in experience, confusions that arise from others, whether that's intentional confusion created by propaganda or just confusions made by the mistakes of others. Peirce's response to this kind of Cartesian move was to say, yeah, we do need to overcome the doubts and confusions we find in the world, but inquiry, which our method of finding the truth and overcoming doubt, is triggered by doubt that exists in the world. It's not triggered by universal doubt, by hyperbolic doubt, by skeptical doubt as Descartes understood it. So Peirce agrees that we have to overcome doubt, but he also believes that we have to move beyond the merely a priori method in order to do that. Another thing both shared was the objective of describing scientific inquiry and trying to account for what it was that scientists do and what it is that they do in particular when they're effective. For Descartes, scientific method was going to be resting on a foundation which he was creating in the Meditations, one which was cleared in advance, as we saw in the Meditations, by hyperbolic doubt, by sort of preemptive skepticism, if you will, and by the powers of the mind, especially our abilities of intuition. Once we have a clear view of things intuitively, we can then use deduction to proceed in a step-by-step manner in order to arrive at certain truths, right? And these would be the methods that science would use. Peirce disagrees with this method because he thought that the way that science progresses is that it relies on grounds that are more practical and more situated, right? The method that he's proposing, and we're going to see him lay this out, is a pragmatic one. Doubt is practical. It arises in our circumstances. It's not hyperbolic or universal. The inquiry that we use is not going to be purely resting on the faculty of intuition or the mind alone. We're going to use the senses. We're going to use observation. We're going to make experiments, and we're going to have to listen to our senses, even though we might want to double check what it is that they are reporting to us. So for Peirce, the reasoning that we're going to use in science is not only going to be deductive, but it's even more crucially going to be inductive and abductive. So this is the end of the first video on Anderson's piece on Peirce, and we'll continue in the next video with 5 severe criticisms that Peirce made of Descartes in the article by Anderson. So see you in the next video.